Welcome back. I'm here today to talk to you about in-text citation. This is a concept that hopefully many of you are familiar with from English 101, which you will work to perfect in English 102. But if you're not as familiar with that concept as you like, then I think this video will be very helpful to you. So I'm going to be using this Prezi here and also a sample student paper to illustrate these concepts. This is the same Prezi that I use to help you set up the MLA formatting for your paper and the works cited page. So that's so that I can give you advance feedback on that before the final draft of the paper is due. Because, like many things in writing, citation takes often multiple attempts to get right. I'm sure you can hear my chicken clucking in the background. I'll be sure to introduce you to him at the end of the video. But let's get right into this. So I'm not going to review everything on here, right? Because the idea was that you were going to click through this independently to learn how to develop your citation for the works cited page. Now, of course, if you use the Gainham and Tran article in your paper, then you will need to include this citation on the works cited page. Now, of course, most of your paper, all of the body paragraphs and the conclusion are about the cartoon, right? But in the first paragraph, you have to explain to the reader what happened in Flint so they know what the cartoon is responding to, right? And so you're going to need facts from a source to do that. If not Gainham and Tran, then another source of your choosing. The reason I put all these arrows on here, which again I'll just go through quickly, is so that you understand this is how you create a citation for any article that you find online, pretty much, right? And of course, there's other reference examples you can use for this from Purdue's Online Writing Lab, also known as Al Purdue. There's another link for that on the same page as this video. Again, so I can give you feedback on how well you did with the works cited page in that assignment, but in-text citation is tricky for students just because there's a couple different forms of it. This is the most obvious form, is using a direct quote. If you are using someone else's words in a paper, word for word, you always, always, always have to put quotation marks on that. You should never be copy pasting anything from any source without using quotation marks and putting the source on your works cited page. And so, of course, the quotation marks indicate where the words from the author begin and end and which words are yours. You'll notice that in the example here, there are some words, from me before the quote. You don't want quotes to stand alone. You want them to combine with some of your own words to create a complete sentence. Immediately after the quote, we see what's called a parenthetical citation. This tells you which source on the works cited page contains that quote. You'll notice there's no page number here. That's because MLA says not to include page numbers for electronic sources unless the source paginates itself, right? So most electronic sources you're going to read are not going to be paginated. The citation will look just like this. When we get into talking about academic journals, those are paginated. Those require page numbers. That's pretty straightforward, right? Then we've got paraphrase, which some students have more practice with than others, but it is something that you will need to get your feet wet with this semester, particularly when you get into doing your research about your topic down the road. And so, as you can see, there's no quotation marks here because all of these words are my own words, right? They're not from Gainham and Tran, right? So why do we still need the in-text citation? Well, when you look at it, this explanation, this fact about why the state switched the water supply, that is something that I knew because I read the article, right? Most of you probably didn't know that fact before you took the class and read the article. So that shows you that the fact is not common knowledge. It's not something the average GCC student knows, and thus you must provide attribution to show where the fact is from. So it's the same in-text citation as if you used a direct quote. Only it's all my words. So I'm explaining the fact in their own words, but I provide the in-text citation for Gainem and Tran. Okay. According to MLA, you put the parenthetical citation immediately after the fact, right? So if it's a date or something you're using from the article or a number, then you put it right after that. But with mine, the whole sentence is the fact, so I just put it at the end. As you can see, this is another way to handle this. If you mention the author's last names in the same sentence as the quote or the same sentence as the fact, then you are covered in terms of in-text citation because you've shown, pardon me, the reader which source on the works cited page contains the quote, right? And so the idea is that your paper could be, you know, however many pages long, but whenever they come across an in-text citation, it tells them they can jump back to the last page, the works cited page, and it makes it very easy to find that source, right? Because the information here in the in-text citation in the parenthetical is what sticks out here because of the hanging indent, right? If you're not sure how to create a hanging indent, there is a module page that shows how to do that. I just checked, and the page that explains how to create the hanging indent is on the formatting/citation help module in Canvas, so I'm sure you can find that. Like I mentioned, this is how to create a citation for just about any article you find online. However, you know, you're allowed to use another article if you prefer instead of Gainem and Tran. Just keep in mind that the facts about what happened in Flint only go in the intro, right? The rest of the paper is devoted to analyzing the cartoon. Okay, so let's jump up here. Again, if you have chosen to use a source that is not Gainem and Tran and it has no named author, right? Some of these CNN Fast Facts articles do not have a named author because they're written by a group of interns, right? There's a different citation format for that. It's not that hard. You basically just start with the title instead of the author. But as you can see, I've got a link to the Al Purdue page for how to handle citation for that and also in-text citation for an article that has no named author. We'll talk more about that down the road. The last thing I wanted to show you in here is that I have provided you with the citations for both of the cartoons. So whichever cartoon you choose, you can just go ahead and copy the citation for that cartoon right into your works cited page, right? Because if you're going to use an image, that's a source, isn't it? And so, but I'm the one that located the sources and provided the images to you, so I don't have a problem with providing you the citation. You're not going to need in-text citations for the cartoons, however, right? Because when you get to the end of your introduction, in your first paragraph, you're going to introduce the cartoon, and the whole rest of the paper is going to be about the cartoon. You're going to point at it over and over. You're going to use the artist's name here and there. And so it's going to be quite obvious which source all that writing is about, so you won't need in-text citations for the cartoon. One more quick thing about in-text citation before I let you go. Take a look at this. This is the sample paper in Canvas. Now it's an A paper. It doesn't mean it's a perfect paper. And so there's an error here that I can show you to help us talk about in-text citation. Take a look at this first sentence. Flint is a little town located in Michigan with a population of about 100,000 residents. Now, does the average person know how many people live in Flint? No. Right? So this is clearly not common knowledge. This is a fact that is from a source that requires in-text citation. Okay. Now these are all her own words. That's why there's no quotation marks on there, right? But the number is from the source. And so immediately after the fact, we ought to add the appropriate in-text citation, right? And let's check. Let's be sure that matches what's on the works cited page. Sure enough, it does. There's the Gainem. There's the Tran, right? So we have fixed that for her. The only other issue on here is this one where she sort of has misspelled the author's name. That's one of the tricky things about working with sources is that you want to double check the names to be sure you've captured everything perfectly, or it hurts your credibility as a writer. I think that's about all I have. As I have said in the past, I like to keep the videos pretty short in the hopes that you will watch them. I will introduce you to my chicken though, one moment. Well, I'll just tell you, I own a parrot. He is a Milligold macaw. His name's Nico. That's who you can hear clucking in the background. My kids like to refer to him as our colorful chicken. He's a bit ornery and difficult to handle sometimes. I don't exactly advocate owning parrots. He's sort of a rescue for us. But anyway, he's not going to let me hold him right now. So here's a picture of him. I'm sure you'll potentially get to meet him down the road. That's all I've got. Take care now, and I'm really looking forward to reading your final draft of the rhetorical analysis paper. Keep up your efforts.